I'm now going to invite Francesca up, just switch the presentations over, and Francesca will be showing us what Adur Worthing Councils are doing. 1 second, darling.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Dan, for a fantastic welcome to everyone. It's amazing to see everyone here today. We've been working on this since last summer, so it's just wonderful to see how many people have come. My name's Francesca Iliffe. I've been working in sustainability for 20 years and for Adur Worthing Councils as the lead on sustainability for 2 years. And I'm incredibly proud to be working for Adur Worthing Councils because of the huge commitment that there is across the organisation towards the climate and biodiversity agendas. So quite a lot of people have been asking, well, what's the council doing on this agenda? And I have to say that we've been doing a huge amount and maybe not communicating it well enough. I'm going to be talking about some of it today, but I just can't fit all the work that we've been doing into a 10-minute talk. So do come and speak to me if you're interested. So why is this conference called Zero 2030? If I take you back to October the 8th, 2018, the International Panel on Climate Change released a landmark report with stark warnings about what would happen in the event of a rise of global warming above 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial levels. And it predicted the destruction and breakdown of ecosystems, followed by the breakdown of economies, communities, populations, both human and animal and species, and that we had very limited time to avert a crisis, that we were actually looking to overshoot the Paris Agreement targets, and that we might even breach 1.5 degrees of warming by 2030. So this is very much the decisive decade, 2020 to 2030. By 2030, we need to collectively transform our systems, transform the way we live, work, eat, travel, farm, the way we do everything. And we need to act now. So as Dan's just told you, Adur Worthing Council's declared climate emergency in response to the dire warnings from our scientists. And following on from the commitment to become the declaration of climate emergency, the Council's committed to work towards being carbon neutral by 2030. And this is a Council target for our own services, buildings and transport. It's an incredibly challenging target. And the first thing that we really needed to do was to understand exactly what that would mean for us. So we commissioned a report by ACOM, who are incredible consultants, and they mapped out for us what our emissions were currently and what we needed to do to reduce those. They found that our baseline year, which is the year 2017 to 2018, we emitted 3,000 tonnes as a result of transport and energy use in buildings. That's quite a normal kind of amount for a local authority, and all local authorities that have made this commitment have the same challenge as we do. So as you can see from this pie chart, our emissions are split more or less 3 ways between the emissions associated with fossil fuel use in buildings, so that's split gas and electricity, and also another third is our transport use. So to reduce these, we've got to work very hard on a number of things. Apart from simply reducing our consumption and improving the efficiency with which we use any fossil fuels, we need to move away from them. So in terms of our gas use, that mainly shows you where we're using gas for space and water heating. So we need to improve insulation and also move to electric or renewable rather forms of heating such as heat pumps and also potentially heat networks which could deliver decarbonised heat to buildings. And then in terms of our transport use, we need to try and reduce any vehicle mileage wherever we can by shifting to other forms or improving our routing for our environmental services vehicles. And then we need to shift to low emission forms of transport. So, which will be very challenging in terms of the heavy goods vehicles because the technology is just not quite there yet, but it's likely to be electric or hydrogen. And thirdly, we need to offset any emissions from any electricity that we take from the grid, or we need to provide that electricity by renewable energy. Not just a green tariff, but actual installations. Because the electricity we draw from the grid has carbon associated with it, and the government is not planning to completely make electricity from the grid zero carbon until 2050. So the other way that we can offset emissions from electricity is through sequestration, through storage of carbon in natural systems. So this shows you a graph of our emissions, which the green line shows that it has been going down since, our emissions have been going down since 2014, but we need to carry on taking them down and also drop them right down to the bottom of the graph, which is 2030. You can see from this graph that even if we do all the kind of measures that I just talked about, we've still got a huge gap of about 50%, that's 1,500 tonnes, that still needs to be offset. So that means either installing large-scale renewable energy or buying from renewable energy plants or sites, or offsetting in the natural world. And here is a huge opportunity for us to work much more closely to restore our natural systems to be able to store carbon, which they can do so well. And a lot of people talk about tree planting, but that's not the only solution. So locally we've got fantastic habitats like salt marsh and chalk grassland and kelp, which could help us. But we've got a massive challenge here to achieve our zero carbon target. But what's lovely about it is that it brings together the ecology sector and the climate sector, or the energy and transport sector. We all need to work together, and that will be a wonderful thing. So we know that that's the council emissions, but the council emissions are just 1% of all the emissions in Adur and Worthing. So we need to think bigger and wider. And as Dan mentioned, the council's made a commitment for 100% clean energy by 2050. So that's effectively our carbon neutral target for the whole area. But even that is incredibly challenging. And you'll hear from Matt Rooney from Anthesis, who we've commissioned to look at that problem of how do we reduce emissions across the whole of Adur and Worthing, who will be talking through some of the potential solutions and interventions that we'll need to make. And also Alex Chapman from the New Economics Foundation will talk about how we need to shift and change all of our systems that we work under. But I just wanted to bring you back to the Council's programme for sustainability actions, Sustainable AW. This is our framework that we actually adopted immediately after that original IPCC report with the first version. And we followed it later. A lot of the action in the first version of this framework we've been implementing over its first year. But in December last year, we adopted a new version. But just to give you some background, this framework is intended as a kind of a framework from which we will actually deliver actions. Without the action underneath it, it's a meaningless document, and our full intention is to make it a living, breathing document. It covers lots of the key environmental challenges that we have to address. We have to address really everything. So it covers land use and planning, climate resilience, food, transport, waste reduction. It covers carbon reduction, energy and water, and of course, importantly, biodiversity. But what we really wanted to focus on is making this a document that we share with you, and hence the shared leadership item. And we want, with this conference today, to ask you all to think about what we need to do, what we all need to do next to address these huge challenges that we have on climate and biodiversity. And please, as you go to the workshops in the afternoon, which are all themed following these themes, although we've added in an ethos and spirit one, which is likely to stay, and we'll adopt that into the framework. But as you go to your workshops, please tell us what's happening locally, what you think needs to happen next, and what you're willing to commit to, or what your organisation is doing. We want to try and bring this together, create cross-fertilisation, and really build capacity across the whole of Adur and Worthing. So a few things that we've been doing more generally. On transport, we're shifting to more electric vehicles. We've bought our first vans. We've shifted all our fleet cars to hybrids. We've introduced a discount travel scheme across Adur and Worthing called Ease It, which is now available to 26,000 members of staff. And on energy, we've done a lot of work on, we're developing a huge amount of projects. We are going to be recruiting 3 new members of staff. We've allocated 2 million over the next few years to do carbon reduction projects. We've installed PV on 2 of our civic buildings, but we plan more. And we've also recently worked with Brighton Energy Co-op on this beautiful PV array on Splash Point. We hope that others can maybe adopt that model. And we've also secured 200,000 from government to explore heat networks for the Worthing Civic site, and also for Shoreham Centre, for Shoreham Harbour. And we've also introduced a fantastic energy advice scheme called LEAP, which offers residents home visits and energy installations to reduce carbon and energy bills in their home. But I just wanted to end up saying that it's so inspiring that we have so many wonderful local organisations working here. And the project on the Sompting Estate by the Ouse and Adur Rivers Trust and the Sompting Estate and so many other organisations and individuals is a fantastic example of what is possible when we work together. So in this event, we really want to support and enhance and create the opportunity for us to all work together better to address our big challenges. So please join us and be part of the solution. Thank you.